solemnem tăcie.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Geomologist Presents. I've been a little remiss on updating some of the games that we're playing, and really the main one I've been reluctant to talk about has been our Twilight 2000 game. It takes place in Eastern Europe, in Poland. In that world, World War III has happened, and I felt that it's been too close maybe to what's going on in the real world, but it's an alternate history, and the players are fine with it. So I guess that's okay if you don't want to hear about that and it gives you too much reference to what's going on in the Ukraine right now. Again, this is like Poland in a World War III alternate history, U.S. and NATO versus Soviets in the Warsaw Pact. But if that kind of triggers you, well, you don't have to listen. But I know some of the most popular episodes are those that are recapping what our survivors are doing in the Twilight 2000 universe, and I'm trying to catch up here with what has gone on the last couple sessions. So when we left out, I had been talking, or the survivors had led an assault against a marauder depot in the heart of Krakow. It was a KGB fomented plot whereby the marauders would distract enough that perhaps a coup could happen where they would get rid of the Dovagda Yosef and replace him with one of their moles or someone that was more tractable. However, the survivors had caught on to that plot and decided to act, assaulting the marauders as they could with some of their allies. They actually had convinced the Dovagda and the Warta, his bodyguard, that this was inevitable, and they had actually been able to secure a third of the Warta force, 3 squads of armed men, to help them assault the marauder depot, as well as some, I guess they're called the Nazarene, but they work for the U.S. DIA in the city, and they got a couple squads of those guys, so they assaulted this marauder base and were doing pretty well. When we left off, they had pretty much more than decimated the marauders, killing about 50% of them and moving on towards the railroad depot. Meanwhile, one of the group, a German spy named Jonesy, had decided to take a group of men, a squad of men from the survivor group, to watch where they felt the KGB base was located, which is in the museum associated with the old university in Krakow. And about 2 a.m., the team got to the university to watch and wait. So just as a note, my wife takes incredible notes, and I'm using her notes as touchstones for what happened. It's pretty neat. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 pages of notes that she has taken in like a little, A5 sized notebook, which is pretty neat. So Jonesy and his group are waiting. About 4 a.m. when the assault hits at the railroad station, they can hear the guns going. They see that 4 people leave from the museum where Jonesy had been in before, and he'd actually killed a person there. Looks like they have AKMs, and one has a pistol. Jonesy's group trails them, and they kind of parallel them until they get to the checkpoint, where they meet up with someone they knew they were going to be there. It was Pavel, one of the I think they're Walkowitz or Wozniak brothers that they had met, who were part of the Warta. So he happens to be there. So they get permission to climb up to the guard tower, where they re-spot this group, and a firefight ensues. And they learn that at the same time that and Pavel Wozniak also learns down below while this firefight starts, and they kind of injure these presumed KGB agents, force them to go to ground. They fail their coolness under fire. That's a mechanic when you get shot at or ambushed. You have to make that, and if you fail that, you drop prone and can't do anything for a round as you regain your wits. But Wozniak is arguing with the sergeant in charge of the watch there. There's like a couple squads of Polish army soldiers, the Ormo, and there's an argument going on, but there's a firefight going on at the same time, and Jonesy radios Wilkins, and Wilkins tells him that there's this argument in Polish, so Jonesy has to go down, and it has to, while the firefight is going on, and try to deal with this. Eventually, they are able to take out these KGB agents, and what happens on the ground is that Pavel Wozniak has determined that the sergeant on duty appears to be hostile and was going to actually let these KGB agents in with a prearranged signal and code. So the sergeant has 4 others that are on his side. So it's like equal numbers of sort of Polish, say, loyalists versus Polish bribed KGB forces. But the Americans the survivors tipped the balance with 3 of them there. Hall, Wilkins, and Jonesy, and a short gun battle ensues. Jonesy draws as he confronts the KGB agent, shoots him. The man fires back but misses, and then Pavel Wozniak takes him down, which actually works out well, that the Polish person took down the other Polish person as opposed to Jonesy taking him down. The remaining 4 stand down, or disarmed, etc. And then Jonesy touches base with Kasha. Kasha says, well, we're moving forward. We almost taken the rail station. And Jonesy says, well, now I gotta get up to the castle because there's a plot afoot. So that's kind of what happened with Jonesy as a side in the initial session where we restarted. But then let's get back to what's going on in the rail station. We kind of stopped in the middle there. And this is actually very interestingly, Amy noted that this is actually August 7th, 2000. It's 21 days after the Battle of Kalisz or so, and their 7th or so day in Krakow. So within a week here, I guess the morning of the 7th, 8th day, the survivors who rolled into Krakow a few days ago are making an impact. So we start off that group with Ronson opening fire from the 50 cal. A couple of marauders are killed there in the main line in front of the rail depot. Stefan Chernoff, he sees equipment among the people, and he actually finds an RPG that has been discarded. It does have 1 warhead nearby and 1 is loaded, but they were able to surprise the marauders in the refugee camp and take him out. So the Nazarene are held up on both the north and south sides of the rail depot by marauders who are resilient. They don't want to give. They won't give, and they're wounding and taking down some of the Nazarene. And I kind of did this I know in a way I made each unit of 5 sort of a single mob in a way, and I had them fire in groups of 5, and then took off hit points based on the amount of damage that was done from the, say each quote-unquote squad has like 20 or so hit points, right? So it kind of worked out pretty well that way, and it went back and forth very dynamically, so I enjoyed that. So anyway, so the Nazarene and the Marauders are kind of in a stalemate as the Warta pushes forward on the west side of the Marauder encampment, or I guess they're called fortifications. Grunts also opens up and kills one. And then also, this is a side note, Hall with the Jonesy's group did get injured and had a punctured lung and needed to go to the hospital before he succumbed. So like in a way you can abstract damage, but I think for named NPCs, we kind of at the end of the fight or at the end of their fight, we can determine, what happened there. Hopefully, it's not bad because if you get like the worst thing in this, so you more or less uh, mobs in this game, whether you're a PC or NPC, have 4 to 6 quote unquote hit points, wounds that they can take. Uh, Damage is pretty lethal on average. 2 shots from a pistol, 1 shot from an assault rifle, definitely 1 shot from something heavier will kill you in this game or take out a mob. For named mobs or NPCs and PCs, you would go to then they could become incapacitated. If they're incapacitated, then see if they have a critical wound, and it's a critical wound is essentially what kill you. Um, so you roll on the table to see how many, depending on how many critical wounds you've taken, and then if it's a hit to the head, like there's a chance that you're just instantly killed. Same with and then the other things, they're like they could be lethal or not, and then you see how long it takes before you need to stabilize them before the lethality occurs, and it could be anywhere from a round to a shift, or even like the next day on some of them, depending, like if it's a critical or lethal limb shot and they bleed out or whatever. There's also chances of infection, but that's further down the road. So anyway, here it looks like the group assaulting the rail station are doing pretty well. Ronson fires again, killing a few. They're about to break, and then what Stefan Chernov and Kasha are moving up to get behind, at least to get behind the Marauders who are holding out on the north side against the Nazarene. And eventually, I think what happens is after a few exchanges, rounds in the gaming parlance, as what Top sees like a guy climbing up to the roof, probably to get to the mortar and try to rain down mortars on the APC, but that guy is taken out. So it seems that I'm trying to think here if there's anything other than, yeah, Kasha actually, when she sees some of the Warda taking some return fire from the remnants of the Marauders, she kind of falls back and helps them to stabilize. On the south side, eventually the Nazarene pushes forward, and one of the Marauders is captured. They capture one person on the north side. As the most interesting thing that happens is Chernov tosses a grenade, takes fire back and forth. One guy gives up, the other guy fights to the death, but he's able to secure a prisoner. And finally, they secure the rail station, and Kasha joins the rest of the group. They all get together, and she heads into the railroad station looking for the kid's mom. They find a lot of other prisoners and refugees that this Marauder group has sort of captured to use for labor and other stuff. And they find the mom. She's still alive, so that's happy. And she will hopefully, after treating the mom for wounds, and making sure she's all right, we'll be able to reunite her, this woman named Maria, with her children, who are, of course, held up, or not held up, but they're taking refuge in St. Maria's Basilica with the forces of the Papal States. So Tops is able to secure the mortar, but then the rest of the group, hearing that Jonesy was going to get up to the castle, wants to get down there, or at least take Jonesy's position where the supposed KGB hideout was going on. So the principals, so that is Kasha and Chernov and Grunts and Tops, they get into, no, is that right? Yes. They get into the APC and start heading down towards the to the museum / college to take the position that Jonesy had overwatch on, while Jonesy goes up to the castle, and then the Nazarene and the Warta under the other Wozniak brother are going to clean up at the depot. Tops does make sure that they call up Sam and the truck to hitch and get some of the red legs in the group to get the mortar secured and get it taken back to the compound. So yeah, that's the rail station was taken. The principal characters moved to the next phase to make sure that any attempt on Yosef, the Dovadka's life is foiled, while Jonesy is already up at the castle, and he is able to get by since he has, you know, they radioed ahead from the checkpoint to the gate at the castle. Jonesy gets Hall at least stable to a hospital, bivouac or whatever set up, field hospital, to get him stabilized, and then he and the rest of his group, which consists of a couple of Polish soldiers and Wilkins, get into the castle and head towards the quote-unquote throne room, where he hears a commotion. Well, Jonesy, being Jonesy, sneaks in and sees 5 people setting up like an ambush. So he does what a good spy would do and toss a grenade. It does damage them and kind of knocks them down, knocks them prone. They generally fail their coolness under fire. So he calls the other guys up, and a firefight ensues where Jonesy kills one, and there's 4 remain, while Wilkins kills another. And then in the next, they don't get shot, and then Jonesy kills another one, and yeah, so the last guy kind of breaks and is taken prisoner more or less, though in a quick interrogation, and they see that he is a traitor. I think one of the Polish soldiers with Jonesy just shoots him. So and then they kind of look like they stop an ambush, and then they head upstairs, it seems. So when they head upstairs, they see this guy Major. Man, what's his name? Well, it's a major they had met before, and they kind of suspect that he is a KGB plant. He has been shot. Actually, as they're going up the stairs to the sort of apartments of the Dovadka, and where Marion and maybe Adam Zeminski, I think, who is her bodyguard, are up. They hear shots coming from up. They head upstairs. They see this major coming down, and he has been shot. Jonesy says, well, I guess this is what we're going to do. So Jonesy hits him, but doesn't take him down, but then the sniper shoots him in the chest and puts him down. Yep, Marion's guards come down. Adam Zeminski comes down the stairs, and they secure Yosef. It seems that he was protected well enough. I kind of ran that combat off to the side, and I wanted to see what would happen, but apparently, and the dice was with the good guys, and Yosef was not assassinated. The major, who was a KGB mole, tried to take things into his own hands, probably called by his superiors to take care of it, since things were going south. So so it's interesting. So he finds a pistol from the major and finds one of those 1990 Nokia phones. So somehow there is a satellite service. I don't know. I haven't really explained that one, but I'll have to figure that out. Meanwhile, the other guys get to the university, and Chernoff and Gruntz, they see basically a Russian truck being loaded up. There are a total of 4 people there. 2 guys carrying boxes, and 2 guys on the side of the vehicle. One an older gentleman, and they pile out of the APC. That is Chernov and Gruntz and Kasha pile out of the APC with Tops kind of sitting on top, and Ronson annihilates the two in the back. Kasha shoots one, and that person drops, losing their coolness under fire. Tops and Gruntz combine to kill a guy who had like a submachine gun, and then Chernoff moves up to the guy an older gentleman who says in Russian, "Do you know who I am?" Chernov says, "I don't care," and he stabs him, and that guy goes down, and Chernov finishes him off. So they find a lot of. So back to Jonesy, he finds a lot of papers in the mayor's office, and then we kind of did the thing for Hall, but and then we kind of left what was going on with the ones at the who stopped the KGB from trying to get out of Dodge, um, and they have a lot of stuff in the back of the truck. Like all these papers are strewn everywhere now at the back of the truck after Ronson unloaded, and there's it looks like at least a generator and some other electronic equipment in the back of the truck already. But yeah, they didn't get very far. Everything happened so fast, which is good. I think, again, the characters took action. I definitely had a plan in mind and a timeline that the players did not know, and they preempted it. And the KGB tried to react to it, but instead of being proactive, they had to be reactive, and the players had planned for that contingency. So, I did try to throw curveballs, and this kind of reminds me of the discussion in the latest a podcast from the good friends of Jackson Elias, where they talk about peril and throwing curveballs, and how Scott Dorwood said he loves to throw curveballs. And I did throw curveballs, but I would say the players hit at least a double, if not hit it out of the park. They, I don't know if they read my mind, but they kind of had a good plan. So you can't fault them for a good plan, and you can't fault them for the dice rolling in their favor, right? The Jonesy and them could have fallen into an ambush and gotten shot up. The players could have just sat on their heels back at the rail station, and the KGB would have gotten away. But that's kind of what happened. So that actually, all that happened in one session. That we finished the assault on the rail station. We had the firefight at the checkpoint, and the firefight inside of the castle with another firefight. So 4 combats actually. Another firefight at the museum or the university. So it was very exciting, the session, that one. And we picked up a couple of weeks later. It is the morning of the 8th day in Krakow, day 22 after the Battle of Kalitz, as Kasha has written down in Kasha's precious journal. Jonesy was arrested and detained as he left the castle by the Ormo, and he finds himself being interrogated by someone who finally showed up, who was another player in town. He is the general who leads the Ormo. His name is Bauhaus Shishkov, or to call him General Shishkov, it's probably easier to call him that. But he interrogates Jonesy and Wilkins separately, and Jonesy definitely gets a sense that he would not mind being the leader of Krakow and might call on them later to get rid of Yosef the Dvodka if he becomes a liability. So they definitely don't trust him. Jonesy sees that he's a ruthless individual. So what are you going to do? You just got to find out who's next in charge. And it seemed to be the major who turned out to be sort of working with the KGB. So now they got to look to see who else would be around to take over if the general suddenly finds himself at the wrong end of a knife, courtesy of Stefan Chernov, who seems to be our local assassin. Although Jonesy has done his fair share of shooting KGB in the face. So, yeah, there we go. They kind of find a lot of gear. And actually in this next session, the session we did, and one of the players did thank me for having them go over all the stuff, because they found a lot of stuff from the rail station, which had to be divided between them at the Nazarene and the Warta. And then they found a lot of stuff there with the KGB, including 4 pistols, a very nice nickel-plated Tokarev that the leader of the KGB had, some submachine guns, a pretty nice, small but nice armory. They got a generator now, which is probably like a 22 kilowatt generator. Nothing super big, but enough to run their operations. They might have to scrounge around in the museum to find, that sort of tower that's linked to these phones somewhere in there, unless they have it in the back of the truck. Um, so there's a lot of stuff we need to process. Definitely during some downtime, Chernov looked through the notes, some of the notes that he recovered from the KGB hideout, and found that there is a rival KGB group that is directly looking for Operation Reset. Um, so there's definitely some things to be done. We have still a lot of, I guess, plots in motion. I would say they probably have done a great deal to. So what they did is they definitely gave that mortar to the army because they can use it better. The Ormo in town, the Polish army that is kind of in charge of security for Krakow, in exchange for something that could be easier to use to defend the compound, some machine guns and plenty of ammo. NATO ammo is hard to find, so so actually the M249 had been confiscated, but they gave it back and give it back the ammo because they don't have any use for NATO ammo. So that was kind of a good thing too. They've really been good at negotiating with the forces in Krakow, and there is definitely plots to continue, I guess. So we'll see how this goes. Kasha's still eyeing the helicopter. They have really good friends with the Warda. I think there's a plan now to go with the army to assault some of these marauder caches outside of town and make sure that Krakow is secure. Meanwhile, in town, Kasha might have some people who are now displaced and can help with the hospital. And she definitely wants to get Maria back to her kids. And then we have the sort of, well, what are we going to do about Marion, who doesn't like the way she's being treated by Yosef? But Amy, as Kasha, couldn't find a way to get her separated from Yosef, who's probably very distraught of having, 2 assassination attempts in 2 days. Both stopped, but still, she couldn't get Marion out of there. So that's another plot that she has in mind. Got to get Marion away from a potentially abusive lover. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on there. And again, this one's less martial this time around. A lot more talking and a big sigh and divvying up the loot type of session. But all good. That's where we're at. Again, I think they got back to the compound, rested, then kind of did maintenance on the vehicles. And for example, Grunts fixed his rifle, which had suffered some damage during the fight. Others, Kasha was looking around and treating patients, and Chernov was looking through the journal. So, and then Jonesy was trying to secure and negotiate with the Warda for some of their gear. So it was good. It was good downtime, and now here we are, 4 p.m. on August 8th, and they're going to get back together and see what they're going to do, how they're going to plan for their next phase in their assault against these marauders, or how they're going to take over Krakow. Well, that's their update, and thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk again soon. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it. No call-ins, just a Krakow update, and the cover art usually is by my wife, Amy. I don't know if I'm going to... I probably won't switch it out. Who cares? So the music intro and outro is by TJ Drennan, and I didn't have a lot of other interesting musics in here. So again, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take us out, TJ.